open. Call to order, please.
Yes. Commissioner Abbott?
Here.
Commissioner Chang Frank?
Here.
Commissioner Chin?
Here.
Commissioner Martin?
Here. Here.
Commissioner OG?
Oh, sorry. Here.
Commissioner Sainberg?
Here. Oh, here.
And Chair Kent?
Here. I'd like to recite the Land Acknowledgement Act. The City of Albany recognizes that we occupy the land originally protected by the Confederated Villages of Lejeune. We acknowledge the genocide that took place on these lands and must make strides to repay the moral debt that is owed to this indigenous people, specifically the Ohlone tribe. We thank them for their contributions which have transformed our community, and we will continue to bring forth growth and unity. The City of Albany commits to sustaining ongoing relationships with the tribe and together build a better future for all that now make this their home. Approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes from last meeting? Or I should say, does anyone put a motion forth to approve them?
I move to approve the minutes. I'll second.
Okay. Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Frank?
Abstain.
Commissioner Chin?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner OG?
Yes.
Commissioner Sainberg?
Yes.
And Chair Kent?
Yes. Have a public comment? Are there any people waiting to speak? Anyone in the audience want to speak? We have a moment of public comment. The things that are not on the agenda, if it's on the agenda, we ask you to hold it until that agenda item comes forward.
And there are no hands raised on Zoom.
Thank you. Now we're on item 4, announcements. Staff Commissioners' announcements, reports, and updates on status of previous agenda items. Does anyone have any comments?
I have one. I attended the city's Albany Hill workshop, I guess it is, that was last night at the Senior Center. And it seemed like it was well attended, and it was kicked off by Margot Cunningham, who was the city staff, and then also mostly the consultants spoke. This one consultant company spoke, that their people, and then also the Monarch guy, he spoke. And they, it was good to see them lay out the basically a whole presentation on what's going on with the hill and the decline of the trees and issues with the monarchs, and the fire chief was also there, and various issues with fire hazards, and discussion of the fire that had occurred on the hill about a year ago, and so and then a lot of Q&A. So it's good to hear from the public. Some were people that I recognize that were generally involved with this, but also there were some people who were just like, I live on the hill, I'm a neighbor, I live across the street from these trees, and I'm concerned about this, that, and the other thing. So it was good to see that public engagement. And I look forward to the next time that comes before us.
Quick question, are the monarchs covering, or are they still in decline?
He actually had the monarch guy actually had a graph of the population of monarchs, stacked kind of graph for Albany Hill versus other Bay Area regional sites. And first of all, you could see an incredibly sharp decline at 2018, I believe it was. It was like, holy cow, it went almost to zero, the counts total. And then they had something of a comeback in the last year or so, but it's been pretty grim up until then, since 2018 until 2022, I guess. So, but they said there are some on the hill now, and I haven't been up there recently to see.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Other comments? Vince?
Just want to mention a couple events coming up. First off, we have the Chamber of Commerce has two Citizen and Youth of the Year. Curtis Evans, Mr. C, is the Citizen of the Year, and Sophia Andrusova is a student at Albany High, is the Youth of the Year. We're having a dinner honoring them next Wednesday, 6 to 8, at Mr. C's restaurant. So anybody's welcome to attend. Come to the Albany, there is a ticket, Albany Chamber of Commerce, albanycachamber.com for that. And I just want to mention San Anselano is coming up. It's always the first 3 weekends in December. It's a great free Santa Claus for those who like that sort of thing. Tend to be younger, but you might be surprised. And that's up in the Berkeley end of Solano Avenue.
Thank you.
Are we doing announcements?
Yes.
Okay, I do have a few. Share that. Perfect. So my first announcement is about the winter field lawn refresh. The ballpark fields at both Memorial and Ocean View Parks are closed for their annual seasonal maintenance. The city's landscaper will be overseeding, aerating, and applying compost to them, as well as the grass lawns at Jules Terrace and Memorial Park. These facilities will remain closed for approximately 3 months from treatment to allow the grass to grow and be healthy for the new season. Please enjoy our other parks as these spaces undergo a much-needed refresh. The dog park will remain open through November, weather permitting, and will close for seasonal maintenance in early December. For more information or project updates, please contact the Recreation and Community Service or Public Works Department. And then I have another announcement. The Winter Spring Activity Guide. This is the picture of the new activity guide. The 2024 Winter/Spring Guide is scheduled to be posted online on Friday, November 17th, with a mailing date of November 27th through December 8th. This activity guide features a City of Albany news sections to give residents an update on available city services and recent city happenings, as well as recreation and community service classes, seasonal camps, special events, and programs which take place between January and May. Programs offer a variety of ways to make sure your winter/spring in Albany is a fun and enriching experience. Classes are popular and fill up fast, so don't delay. Be sure to check it out. Winter/spring program registration begins December 18th at 9 a.m. online and in person. And for my last one, this is about the pilot volleyball program. The Recreation and Community Services Department is gearing up for the launch of the pilot volleyball program on the tennis court at Memorial Park. The equipment has been trickling in as we're still waiting on the poles to be delivered. Once those items are received, the program will begin. Thanks to everyone for their support and patience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go for it. Yes.
Mark, announcements? Do you have any announcements?
Yes, I have a couple of announcements. First, I want to add on to what Commissioner Martin talked about in last night's workshop. Let me share my screen. So we had this, let me see, share. There we go. So last night's workshop was was a kickoff to the Albany Hill Eucalyptus Project. The intent of the project was to bring everyone up to speed in terms of sort of the foundational documents, the goals of the project, and really have everyone kind of a clear sort of foundational understanding of what we're trying to do and the challenges, and as well as the opportunities. And I want to direct everyone to the Albany Hill page on the website where you can find information on the project. And so if you scroll down to the Albany Hill Eucalyptus Project, there's a number of drop-down menus. We have the community workshop we had last night, and it was very well attended. I think there were 39 people. I was there for the beginning parts of it, but had to take off. But I think seeing there was a lot of engagement throughout the presentation, and I hear from Margot that there were some really good questions. We are going to be posting the slides on the website, and you can find these under, as well as everything else associated with the project, under project documents. And there'll also be additional opportunities to engage. We are planning a sort of community field walk I think it's the first weekend of December, so I think that's December 3rd we're targeting. Rain depending, obviously. And that's going to be more of a sort of hands-on in the field type discussion. And then we're targeting February or March to be the first check-in with this commission. So the idea is the consultants are getting some baseline information, getting comments, and then start developing project alternatives to then present to the commission and get formal feedback. So that's in process. The next thing I have, let's see. So I wanted to do a quick update on some projects that come before the commission, or actually they're elements of the sidewalk repair program that have come, unique elements of the sidewalk repair program that has come before this commission. The work is largely done. We're still doing punch list items, but I think they're pretty interesting. The first is the work we did at 1501 Washington. This is St. Albans. This is what we call sort of a holistic approach to our sidewalk program, where we combine a number of elements. This was a sidewalk repair, curb ramps, we have drainage improvements, and that allowed us to expand a tree well for the first tree. This one also included a tree removal. There were 4 trees in front of St. Albans. We had to remove one due to its condition. We were able, the first one on the block there that you see was one that we potentially were going to impact during construction, but from what I understand, we were able to avoid any really major impacts to the tree, but we're going to monitor it going forward to see how it does. The next 2 are, if you recall, these were, we call the pass-through bulb outs. These were sort of test cases where we're trying something new, where we're bulbing out. This is an improvement that's connected with a sidewalk repair, where we want to give a little more space for trees, but we run into curb issues and drainage, so we wanted to do a bulb out that took out some pavement, took out, in some places, took out parking, but then allowed water to pass through the bulb out, and hopefully that is provides the tree with a little more room, and it will still have a functioning storm drain system. This is a picture from that last rain. Wasn't a lot of water to make it work, but you can see the leaves on the picture on the left, the leaves in the area where we want the leaves to be, so it looks like it's working. We do have rain in the forecast, so we're definitely going to keep an eye on it and see how it functions. A couple of things that are still outstanding on this as well as the other one. We have some bollards that will make it more visible to motorists and so forth, and those are on the way. So those will be installed in the coming weeks. And then here's the other one we have at 805 San Carlos. Same issues. We're trying to give the tree a little more space, not really impact drainage, and this is, if these prove to be successful, we'll look at other places where we can implement them around the city. And so I have one more. We did receive an appeal from the last meeting, a tree appeal. So this is the 1444 Portland location, and so that will be heard at the first meeting in December, which I believe is December 4th. And I want to thank Commissioner Sainberg for pointing out that, asking a question about how we advertise and get the word out about the appeal process, and it's something that doesn't happen very often, so that was really a gap in what we had, so we've updated our website and to make it more clear, and including our process to make sure that the applicant and others involved understand that the appeal process, not only the application, but the process for it. So, thank you. That's all I had.
One, Just to check on, you said December 4. Maybe our meeting is December 4, but our meetings are usually the second Thursday of the
You meant
month.
December 14th.
No, actually, the appeal goes to council.
Oh,
It doesn't come back here, it goes to council.
right, okay.
That's maybe, the information on the appeal is not as clear, so I wanted to bring that to your guys' attention.
Sorry, where is the appeal information currently available? Is it,
On the website,
like the one that was submitted already? Like the one that,
oh, the one that has been submitted is,
or that'll go to council's
it'll go to
attached?
council and we'll produce a staff report, similar to we do every council item, and that'll have all the relevant information, including the documents that were reviewed as part of this commission, the information that the applicant, the appellant, I guess, submits, and package that up for council to review and make a decision on. That's all I have.
That was application we denied last time, is that right? Or is this one?
Was the applicant, well, so that was our recommendation to retain the tree, and you accepted our accepted. Yeah, and the applicant's appealing it.
Do you know just the number of that tree? Because I don't want to wait until December to, which one was that?
It was
Street number?
1444 Portland.
Okay, thank you.
And that's when we voted to preserve, and they want to remove it,
Correct.
1444. And this is the neighbor or the adjacent property owner?
The property owner.
Property owner, okay.
Thank you for that. Moving on the agenda, let's see, where am I? We're on to 5, presentation, parks and maintenance update. Please introduce yourself to the,
Of course. He's getting the presentation up. I know there's some new faces on the commission since the last time I presented. So my name is Razu Engen. I'm the Public Works Manager. I manage a number of maintenance contracts for Public Works as well as our maintenance crew, and come here about every 6 months or so, twice a year, to make a presentation on the maintenance activities at the parks.
I think we're good to go.
And should I just say next slide? Yeah, there we go. There's an overview of kind of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Public Works overview, talk about park status, SB 1383. For those of you who don't know what that is, I'll explain that a little bit. Prop 68 update, and then Parks Master Plan and capital improvements as well. Next slide. Public Works does a lot. We do maintenance of city buildings and parks. It includes all the moving parts of all the buildings. We have a group that does capital improvements, kind of bigger projects. Urban forestry, which is John, open space, Margot, you've heard from them before. Engineering of basic infrastructure, all the things that are on the road and the public right of way, and everything underneath that as well. And then finally, we do a lot of agency coordination, and that can be coordinating with utilities, grants and implementation of those kind of things, regional coordination, and then a lot of regulatory work too. There's quite a bit of requirements that are housed within Public Works where we have to do certain kinds of work or report on certain city activities on a regular basis, and that takes quite a bit of staff time. Next slide. Our maintenance crew, they do everything and anything and everything throughout the city. We're currently fully staffed at 7, which has been great. It's allowed people to have regular time off and still get things done. We've caught up on some of the deferred maintenance, but there's still quite a bit to go, as you'll see. Our crew works Monday through Fridays on a regular business work schedule, and then we also have a weekend extra hour run. I'll talk a little bit about that. And then 24/7 emergency response. So if there's a sewer overflow or a tree falls down at a park or any number of different things, we can get called out our crew will get called out and come and respond. Additionally, we use contractors to supplement the maintenance crew work and talk a little bit about where we see those in the next couple slides here. Next slide. So here is kind of the overall Public Works organizational chart, and you can see there, parks and playfields are kind of one of the many things that happens within the Public Works umbrella. My presentation will cover most of that stuff within the parks and playfields, other than, of course, the tree maintenance, which is more in John's field. Next, please. One of the kind of main things that our Public Works crew does on a regular basis is our maintenance trash run. We call it a trash run, but really there's quite a bit of other things involved other than just checking on the trash within the parks. Obviously, we do the garbage collection, pick up any sort of litter that's around the park, blow off walkways and tennis courts to maintain the accessibility, playability there. We check in on the bathrooms. We have a janitorial staff which does the cleaning, but we need to also keep an eye on the status of the bathrooms and the supplies. Restock dog bags, pick up the loose toys that have been left at the playground, and clear out the ditch at Terrace Park, especially during the rainy season, which we'll see a lot of. It tends to get a little bit clogged up if we don't stay on top of that. So what we do is we kind of break it out into different areas. The A, B, and C are the different trash runs. Those get assigned to an individual person who will do that. Typically, it's Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays are our trash runs. You can kind of see there the scope of which parks get serviced when. Wednesdays are a little bit of a lighter day, but we've added in some extra time at Memorial Park, especially given how busy it's been lately. Pretty much since the pandemic, we've seen Memorial Park just getting very, very high usage, which is great, but that does bring in some additional maintenance needs as well. And then finally, I wanted to highlight down there the Albany Greenway, which is a newer addition to our regular runs. It was something that we would kind of check on regularly. In this way, we're trying to get it into more of a scheduled time. It's usually on either Tuesday or Thursday to kind of supplement these trash runs. It just depends on the week on what other projects and programs that we have going on, which day we do that. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have a janitorial contractor, so that contractor is the contractor that cleans all the city buildings, including this one, and then maintains the park restrooms. Those get cleaned Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as a general rule. At Memorial Park and Ocean View Park, during the kind of busier summer months, we have an additional clean day scheduled on Saturday. Additionally, we do have that a weekend run at that our crew does, so they'll check the bathrooms as part of that as well. So that's typically on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, depending on when that works well. Next slide, please. Another thing that we do is mowing. There is a contractor, again, that works some of the bigger mowing areas, such as the ball fields and the greenway. Those get mowed on a weekly basis during the summer, less so now that it's starting to get a little colder, a little wetter, and the grass is not growing as much. City staff will do basically every other week, do the lawn areas at the parks, and then key route. Key route we do on, again, every other week. We also do some edging work on the sides there. We try to coordinate that with the street sweeping schedule, so that we can do the edging without having to get close to cars and potentially damage those. You see a note there for the contractor. We're looking to update those contracts and really kind of formalize some of the newer requirements that are coming in with respect to water usage and uses of compost and mulch, and kind of get a higher level of service there. So that's going to be coming down. That may affect the date, but we will still expect to have the same level of service, meaning that they'll still get mowed on a weekly basis as well. The other thing I wanted to highlight here was some of you may have heard me talk about our new maintenance structure, where our crew, we have maintenance leads that are set up for each specific area. So we have someone who's kind of the maintenance lead in charge of public right-of-way, one for sewers, one for buildings and facilities, and then one for the parks. And that having that person in the parks has helped us to kind of keep focused on, hey, what are the needs, what are the mowing needs at the different parks? How can we make sure we integrate that and make sure we keep that as a consistent schedule? Next slide, please. Talking about some of the challenges and opportunities that we have with maintenance. I mentioned the increased usage of the parks. With that has also come an increased incidence of vandalism, particularly at Memorial Park, and then also at Ocean View. Those bathrooms have had to have a lot of rework done, which has been a little frustrating. And that includes not just graffiti, but also physical damage to the infrastructure there. With the when during the pandemic, when HS was eating their lunches outside in Memorial Park, we started to see a lot of trash. We're still seeing some of that, but that's something we work with the high school folks to kind of monitor that and stay on top of that. So that's when our crew sees issues out there, they let me know, and we try to pass that on to the high school. And then you could see there some of the response we had to that. We added the weekend park check. That was not something that we did regularly. That's an overtime expense, so there is some cost there. But I think you'll see the addition of that. We've seen a lot better maintenance of the facilities as a result of that. We've also adjusted the park bathroom hours. I don't like to cut back on the hours, but it is a way to keep the vandalism in check, and in coordination with Albany Unified School District. Next slide, please. In addition to our regular maintenance, we have some we call them non-cyclical refresh tasks. These are things that are getting worn down, need to be replaced. Not necessarily on a cycle for replacement, just when we notice. Some of the things could be like repainting the half court at Terrace Park. That was done recently. New padding around the crash pads around the lights at that light post at Ocean View. Installing bike racks as needed, and then adding the new windscreens at Memorial Park. Those were added, I think, shortly before my last presentation here, but I wanted to update and say we've also had the same windscreen material fabricated for the distance markers on the field too. So the old ones were just on a piece of plywood, and that was starting to rot away, so we upgraded those as well. Next slide, please. Some additional ongoing refresh tasks are grill maintenance. We swapped out all of the grills over at Ocean View Park, and we'll start to look at doing that to the ones that need it at Memorial Park. Picnic tables, this is something wonderful. With full staffing, we can have our staff rebuild those. Those originally were made out of this composite plastic material called Trex. Great material for a lot of applications, but we've been finding that it tends to sag. It's hard to remove graffiti from in some instances, whereas a nice wooden table, you can sand it down, you repaint it. It's a little bit easier, and we're hoping that it'll last longer than the plastic composite material. Additionally, we top off the sand and the fiber, which is the engineered wood chips that are in the playground areas. That's a safety thing. Keep those up to the regular level. And also want to talk about tool electrification. Our maintenance contract, or landscape maintenance contractor, we, I think sometime last year, asked them to switch over to all, to switch from the internal combustion engine, small engines, to electric tools. They were able to do that. They have a big fleet of equipment. Our fleet is a little bit smaller, and we don't like to retire things that are necessarily still working, but that is something we're looking at. Now we've had a couple demo days with manufacturers of battery-powered landscaping equipment, and so we're looking to make a decision soon and roll that out sometime early next year, where we replace all of our small engine tools with electric battery-powered alternatives. Next slide, please. Getting into kind of the park status, some of the things that we're seeing recently is the age of the playground equipment has started to show. We've had to replace a couple slides. We replaced one at the Terrace Park, and just recently noticed this one here at the Dartmouth Tot Lot. So that is something, you can't always find the exact same piece of equipment to replace one for one, which involves, so then you have to have them pull up existing rubber mats and place new concrete footings, and so that it's a lot more involved, and often it doesn't meet the same geometry. Also, needs are changing, and we're thinking, we've gotten a few requests for more ADA accessible swings and those kind of things, and that's something that we would like to kind of roll out as more of a capital project possibly, where we're going to be upgrading those, replacing wholesale the large playground equipment. Additionally, with kind of doing more regular turf maintenance, recently you saw Jamira's announcement about the parks there, so we're doing aeration, overseed, and compost application at the ball fields, and then also reworking the infields. So that's been something we saw last year, did a lot for the condition of the fields and also enhanced playability, and we're looking to expand on that this year. We just had some major work just started over at Memorial Park. Was starting early next week with Ocean View Park, and then also be doing the dog park and the lawn areas at Terrace Park as well. That'll be a little bit in the future. Another place where we've seen a lot of need is the tennis courts. That's just, those tennis courts have gotten old, the surfaces are getting worn down, getting root intrusion from some of the surrounding vegetation around the courts, and in general, they're just not looking as good as people would expect. So that's another thing we have on our to-do list. Additionally, we are looking at potentially another pretty heavy winter. Last winter really impacted our trees throughout town, and we had to spend a lot of time responding to trees, down trees or down branches, flooding, and then also saw some major impacts on the playing fields with heavy rains would tend to wash away a lot of the material there. So that's something we are planning for, and we'll continue to monitor as we see what the weather does. Additionally, on the trees, John has completed a survey of the trees within the parks, and will likely address the commission with recommendations as warranted on the additions there. Next slide, please. I mentioned the infields remedial work. Some other projects that we have, just gopher trapping at Ocean View. And then you can see there's we're replacing the swings. It's just something that gets worn out on a regular basis. And then I wanted to mention too, with the Zaha project construction at Cleveland and Washington there, that's going to be a great addition there and will enhance the Pierce Street Park by adding a bicycle connection through to Cleveland Avenue. That's something that it's part of the project to enhance their section of that bike connection, and then we're going to work on connecting it through Pierce Street Park as well. Next slide, please. At Terrace Park, we have a tennis court post replacement that's scheduled for next week, weather permitting. Again, we have some weather coming in, I think, next week that may make it hard for them to put the concrete in the ground and to secure the post, but hopefully they're able to complete that soon. The playground slide was replaced recently. On the Greenway, I've mentioned a few times the replacement of the exercise equipment. We had an exercise yard there. Some of the equipment with moving parts didn't last in the way that we would like it to. Planning on pulling those out, and we'll bring a replacement recommendation to the commission really soon. The other thing on the Greenway is, and this goes to the kind of some deferred maintenance there as well, is the decomposed granite, or DG, pathway repair. That's the pathway that goes along both sides of the multi-use pathway. A lot of people use that for running. That has fallen into a little bit of disrepair, and especially last year with the amount of rain, it just washed away a lot of that material. So things are in a little bit poor shape. We'll end up likely kind of phasing a replacement for that pathway, kind of do a section at a time, a block or two at a time. Oh, and then let's go back on the tennis courts. I know that repair has taken a little while. I just wanted to mention we initially thought we would be able to incorporate the larger refresh of the tennis courts, but we hired someone to kind of figure out what was needed, do a needs assessment there, and their needs assessment was far exceeded what we had planned for budget and scope. So it's something that we'll need to do kind of in the near future. For right now, we just want to make sure we have a playable court there. So we're just replacing the posts for the time being. Thanks. So SB 1383. This is a state law that has a lot of different parts to it. The part that I'm here to talk about today is a requirement that impacts our parks quite a bit, and that's a requirement that the city procure 1,364 tons of recycled waste material per year, and that includes compost and mulch. And there's some other ways you can fill that requirement, but for our purposes, compost and mulch are the most practical ways to do that. To give you guys an idea of what that is, if you just bought mulch with that, that'd be equivalent to over 400 pickup loads of mulch. If we had a person on staff, working full-time, say 200 days in a year, they'd have to take 2 pickup loads and dump that somewhere in the city every single day that they're on the job. It's a big requirement once you get to that. Fortunately, the state the first year they didn't have any sort of, they waived the penalty requirements, kind of let people see how that worked, and then decided that they would do over a phased implementation. So first year was 2022. We did about 18% of our total annual procurement requirement, which is pretty good, way ahead of a lot of peer cities, and really, I think, got us rolling to where we're in a good position now. For this current year, 2023, the requirement is 30%, or 409 tons. Next year, we'll have to almost double or over double that, 65%, 887 tons. And by 2025, we'll have to be procuring the full amount of recycled organic materials. Our current approach is to kind of a combination. City usage, which is mulch and compost that we buy either for use around town or include as part of our landscape maintenance, such as what you see at the ball fields and the lawn areas. Additionally, we have the city and waste management compost giveaway. It's always a popular event. Folks would like to come and get compost for their gardens and their yards. And we've also piloted a project with the Gill Tract to have a compost hub out there where folks from the city can pick up free compost that way. That's free to the residents, but obviously we're paying for that. Next slide, please. All right, so for 2023, how did we do? We applied 356 tons of compost at the ball fields and parks, and that was 2 different applications. One in the wintertime, like we're doing right now, and one in the try to do it a little bit towards the summer, but it ended up being a little bit later into the fall than we'd like. So that first, the main one that we're doing like right now, that's a big application. Fields need to be closed for several months to let the compost work in. For the second application, we're planning to do that in the summer next year. We have that already kind of penciled in as scheduled, and that one's a little bit lighter application, just a few days closure there to incorporate that material. We also gave away 27 tons at the compost giveaway and 68 tons miscellaneous application from town. That'll be mulch around trees and tree wells up and down streets or used in the parks. So we purchased about 33% of our requirement. So we're on track to meet the requirement for 2023. Want to note there the application costs about $50,000 for this material that we've put at the ball fields and the parks. Our application costs will definitely increase. These that we started with are kind of the low-hanging fruit. That's the easiest places to put this organic material. As we get closer and closer to that 100% requirement, we're going to have a harder time finding those locations and also meeting the requirements. And therefore, costs will go up. Next slide, please. So our plan for 2024, we'll add a second application at the Ocean View ball field. We didn't get a chance to do that this year. Scheduling it just didn't work out. So it'll be additional 50 tons. Over at Peggy Thompson Pier Street Park, we can add some compost to that lawn area there, the open field area. Maybe 100 tons, maybe a little bit more. It's a pretty large area. That one, we'll kind of have to see how we plan out the usage there. And expanding to other parks, including the Greenway and anywhere else where we have turf or other plants, expect that we can apply about 80 tons worth of compost. We'll probably be using additional mulch around town. I estimate about 35 tons, and hoping to work in with our landscape contract updates some additional usage there. If you're fast with the math, you'll see that we're not quite meeting the requirements just yet. I think this provides a good map of where we're going to be applying that, but it is going to be a little bit of a reach to get to that requirement even next year, much less in 2025. We do have some assistance from CalRecycle and a consultant that the city has hired to help with this implementation, but that is going to be, like I said, a pretty big lift. Next slide, please. For 2025, we're hoping to have some good recommendations on sustainable landscapes and other recommendations from the turf audit. That's something that was recommended by the Parks Master Plan, to look at how we use turf throughout town and whether turf can be replaced with more sustainable landscapes that require less water, a little bit more less intensive work, more sustainable, but also would be a better place for compost application as well. And like I said, meeting those requirements would be costly. Prop 68 projects, you all have seen a presentation from our new small projects manager, Andre Sterling, and we're really happy to have him. It's been great to have somebody that can focus on these small projects and just work towards implementation. And so we're keeping the initial phased plan that we had developed before Andre was hired. Memorial Park lighting, dog park improvements, and Ocean View pickleball courts. That's all in the works, and should be seeing some construction starting there fairly soon. And then phase 2, Hot Lot, Terrace Park, and Peggy Thompson park improvements. You'll see those need a little bit more of a design and conceptual work. Andre's working on those as well, concurrent to executing the phase 1 project. So those also should be in the queue pretty soon. Next slide. Oh, and sorry, that's the our pickleball courts. That's the little first plan there for how that might look in the future.
Actually, can I jump in here? So we're planning to bring the Prop 68 projects to the commission in December. And this is a little bit of a sneak preview of what we have. And Andre's made great progress, and our hope is that we can come to a recommendation to move forward on the projects in December. So stay tuned.
This is some of the projects that kind of came from the Parks Master Plan. These were the near-term 0 to 3 years. As you know, we have a Parks Master Plan and use that as a guiding document for prioritizing and implementing park improvements and maintenance. So you can see there's a lot of projects there that are included in the Prop 68 program. We also have in process, for instance, the Cornices Creek Trail construction is ongoing right now. And then we had also planned to do in near term the turf audit and implementing those sustainable landscapes. That's something we're hoping to roll out, early next year. The turf audit is intended to kind of identify where we have turf, whether it's being used in the best way, whether it can be enhanced, not just bring more amenities, but also be a little bit more sustainable in terms of water usage and other environmental concerns. Next slide, please. And then looking at the kind of midterm projects from the Parks Master Plan, mentioned the bike trail. In addition to the bike trail at Pierce Street Park, there was a bike park proposed in that area. That's something we would want to kind of come up with a plan for. And then playground improvements, like I mentioned, there's some kind of aging playgrounds that need to be replaced. Those would be kind of more of a CIP or capital improvement projects, and looking to probably kick off some sort of planning process first before we get into real needs assessment, before we get into nitty-gritty details about when those will get done. Next slide, please. For capital improvement projects, We have the Parks Master Plan projects. Those are generally enhancements that we're thinking about. But there's also includes some deferred maintenance projects, such as the resurfacing of the tennis courts, playground equipment replacements, and including ADA improvements, and project like the Snack Shack roof. Allison, our CIP manager, will be presenting an update on the CIP program and gather input from this commission as well as other commissions and other city departments. That'll be kind of, you guys will help with the prioritization of those projects and kind of envisioning for that stuff. That'll happen early next year. And then with that input, Allison will balance that with the needs from a variety of the other departments and city commissions and make a plan for implementation. And that goes all into the capital improvement plan, which is renewed on a regular basis.
Yeah, so we added this because we are planning an update to the CIP, and what we want to do is kind of prime the pump in terms of thinking of what the priorities will be at the parks and drawing from what we see as deferred maintenance issues, the playground equipment, the tennis courts, as well as projects that are identified in the master plan. And not only, like, there's a number of things that at a number of the parks of replacing specific things, but some of these might require more of a planning study to develop what that really is. And our idea would be maybe CIP covers a 5-year period, maybe the planning piece is done earlier, let's say at Pierce Street Park. That seems like an opportunity, and then we can stack projects in the later years of the plan for execution. So this is just getting the ideas out there and people thinking about what the priorities will be.
Measure M tax funds, this is something that it funds a lot of the parks work. On our city website, there's a kind of a updated information about Measure M funds and usage. That is going to be updated post-audit on a regular basis. We don't really have anything to mention right now, just wanted to put that website out there for folks who have questions about that. Next. And kind of wrapping up, wanted to also plug our construction alerts. That's something that we have on our website as well. A QR code there for folks if that's helpful. And it has an archive of past projects as well as any active and upcoming projects, and that'll help folks to plan, hey, I can't go to the parks because there's something going on, or you need to reroute around your favorite coffee shop because there's utility work going on. It's all part of those construction alerts. Next slide, please. And then finally, how to report issues. So if there's any sort of public works related issue, public right-of-way, parks, anything like that, the service request is the best way. That gets kind of gets it to the right department or person within Public Works, and we can set up either a work order for the crew to come out and make a fix, or put it in the queue with other kind of smaller projects that we do on a regular basis, or update folks on any other bigger projects that are needed to address issues that are around. And with that, I open up for questions.
Questions from the commission?
Go ahead.
Can you, yeah, so thank you for your presentation. That was very detailed, and you all do a lot, for sure. The bike path connecting Pierce Street Park,
Yes.
and I lost my spot, but can you just what is the path? Is it going to come down through like that kind of open space, or yeah, can you describe that?
So it'll be part of the parcel that is currently being developed for the Saha housing project, but then it'll continue into Pierce Street Park. and I believe it'll open up onto Cleveland Avenue, just north of Washington. Alignment through the park itself is something that we still need to work on, finalizing those plans, and that'll kind of give us some boundary space to know what else we could do with that park. As you know, there's a nice playground area, but there's also a very large undeveloped area that's just open space right now, including some portion of the park that's to the north of the current enclosure that is included in that city parcel as well. And we're hoping to use that for the bike path as well as the bike park. Good?
Yeah, I think there's various planning documents that show bike connection. I think now that with the Saha project, one element becoming more real, and that's going to drive some of the other design of it. I think Andre might touch on some of this next week when he talks about the Prop 68 projects, or not next week, next meeting. He talks about the Prop 68 projects.
To piggyback on that, I think it'll be important to have, sort of as mundane as it is to pick the direction of a bike path through, if it does go through that open field, that would preclude, the open field used for lots of other things. So that would be a debate to have, I think, at a public.
I think that's what we would look at, try and look at using that, so we want those to be compatible. We don't want to prevent other uses in that area.
Okay, good.
I can say that when we looked at the design originally, way back when, it went around the edge, the far edge, came down and went around the edge. Maybe, yeah, you don't want it to go right by the playground, right? So, yeah. So that's.
Other questions?
Yes. So, number one, I was just curious. You guys do a lot, so thanks for the presentation. So you're fully staffed with 7. How is that working with 7 people?
So we have seven people. We have 4 of them are lead workers, and 3 of them are maintenance staff. Having said that, the lead workers have a little bit of additional responsibility, but everyone within that staff is expected to do pretty much everything. The same person may be out putting up street signs, patching potholes, also working in the parks, mowing the lawn, or fixing plumbing within a building, or coordinating with a contractor for HVAC repairs.
Okay, so
Did that answer your question?
yes, yes.
So they really get their hands on everything, every one of them.
What will be the ideal number of staff?
For a city of this size, I think 7 is good.
Okay.
This is the kind of balance we struck between having staff versus contractors. With such a small city, we can't have staff that is, expert on everything. They're pretty good at plumbing, but they're not necessarily licensed plumbers. Same thing with, small electrical repairs. They're still not electricians. We need to bring in somebody from outside, who's an electrical contractor, to actually complete that. If we had somebody on staff who was an electrical contractor, we probably wouldn't be using them as much as it would make sense to pay that additional cost.
I want to jump in here because I think one of the struggles we've had all along is the balance between what we do in-house and what we contract out. And I find that we can handle smaller things or acute things, something broken we need to stabilize, but we also want to leverage contracts, especially in things like ball field maintenance, which needs to be done on a very regular basis to maintain playability. And I think we have trouble maintaining a schedule because we get pulled in on different things. And so if we miss a mowing, well, then the next time we're mowing, maybe there's someone using the field and whatnot. So it's really that blend of balancing between contracts and in-house staff. So I think right now we have a decent balance, and that's something we're always looking to update. And we just recently expanded to 7. We had 6 before, so we recently expanded to 7, and we expanded to 4 lead workers versus 1 lead worker. And so what that does is give us lead worker has a specific focus so that we get eyes on that. And so I think through this, we're getting a better level of service throughout the entire city.
Sounds good. One more question. So you talked about vandalism being a bigger problem in Memorial Park, and I think you said Ocean View.
Correct.
And you said one of the things you're doing is closing the bathrooms earlier. Is that correct?
We're adjusting the bathroom schedule, so that in some cases that does mean closing them earlier. In some cases, that means opening them later, for instance, at Memorial Park. Ocean View, we do try to keep it open a little bit later. There's a lot of rec department programming that goes on over there, night games and stuff like that. We need to have it open and available for those folks who are using the parks in a sanctioned activity. Once the park's closed, though, we want to make sure the bathrooms are closed, that there's not somebody living in there or getting in there and causing trouble.
See, I had a few questions. One quick one was, when you mentioned trash run, is that just emptying trash cans, or is that also looking for litter? And if it's not in looking for litter, is that part of somebody's job to just look for litter and pick up litter?
Yes, that is emptying trash cans, but that also does include looking for litter. That includes checking in on the bathrooms. That includes, kind of making sure that there aren't any hazards in the parks, blowing off walkways as needed, blowing off the tennis courts as needed, kind of just generally. The crew is our eyes on the street. We can't, our team, we need to have somebody out there kind of looking at the parks on a regular basis. That's part of the trash.
Okay, so that's a lot
I
of work.
think we call it the trash run, but it's really a general maintenance of each park.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like it. The dog park, it was mentioned, it's going to be closed soon in the announcements for maintenance, and it sounds like the grass can be a lot of maintenance. We've gotten some complaints from people that there's like big ruts, and especially with last winter, there was so much water, so much rain. And when I was on the dog park subcommittee, I heard from a number of people that wished it was open year-round. Do you know, I think I've heard that we can't use the state's mulch or roughage or whatever for, if we wanted to wood chip the dog park, but would wood chipping it with the appropriate wood chips reduce the maintenance burden of the public works, do you think?
So the appropriate wood chips would probably be the FIBAR, engineered wood fiber wood chips, which are the same ones that are used in the playground. Those are cut in a certain way so that they don't break down as much, and they don't have any sharp edges, which would damage, could injure a kid or a dog in the dog park. The issue we have with the dog park is kind of a similar issue we have at our ball fields, which is the grading of it. It's got a little bit of a slope to it, so adding mulch or sand or anything like that would tend to kind of slough off, whereas the grass is a little bit more stable, even though it does get chewed up.
So you're saying mulch is impossible at the dog park? I mean, wood chips?
I think it would create a lot of, it would solve some problems and create others. I think that the grass seems to be the better option.
Can I jump in real quickly?
I would
too?
disagree for other ground. My priorities are different, but okay, I hear what you're saying.
There is I'd say on the south side of the dog park, there's a persistent issue of things being wet. And I think we're going to try to correct some of that in part of the Prop 68 projects. One of the issues is that since it was designed as a ball field or a play field and not a dog park, the irrigation system with the baseball infield is they have a head right where one of the areas where it gets very wet. So we're disconnecting that. We're also putting in a French drain along the south side, which we hope will pull some of the moisture out there and make it less of a swampy area. I think wood chips is something we could consider, but I think there are some challenges with that because I think if we have a certain grade right now and if we're going to put 2 or 3 inches of wood chips on top of that, well, then we have issues with the concrete pad for the bench and we have mow bands, so we would get a lot of spillage of that into other areas. So that's something we can look, but it'll probably require a little more work than just throwing out some wood chips.
Okay, so maybe some regrading or something. And let's see, Jules Terrace Park Tennis Court post replacement. As I recall, that was one of the tennis courts that we had identified from the Flex Court Subcommittee as one that was optimal for these nets that can go up partway, can be raised for badminton and for volleyball, because it's not, for two reasons. For Memorial Park, its tennis courts are used for competition, and this flexible net can't be secured in the middle, you know, to make it legit. And then at Ocean View, there's all this other stuff going on with pickleball, so that was like, didn't want to touch that. So I see you, the Public Works is looking into buying new posts. What would it take to get those to be this multi-use, multi-sport post?
So I would defer that to when we do more of a refresh of the area. I think right now, it's not a huge expense to just replace the posts and get it back playability, and then we can defer that question of how we want to, for the CIP, when we do a full refresh of the courts and lines and so forth.
Yeah, so I think that should come before us, before those lines get painted.
Yeah, absolutely. This is
And-
just post broke and we're
Okay.
replacing it.
And so that's not a major expense, it's not a big deal to replace these new
It's
ones?
not a huge,
Okay,
huge lift, and, you know, it's a court that's been closed for, you know, a considerable amount of time. And so we are getting complaints about playability. So I think we want to get it back playable, and if we want to do a, you know, when we do a refresh of the courts, we make the decision to add those types of nets, and that'll be done as part of that project.
okay, and the last thing I just wanted to, let's see, the bike park I've been looking forward to for some time, and what kind of timeline are people talking about for that one slide that had those 3 items that included the bike park?
So that was from the Parks Master Plan. Those are considered kind of midterm projects.
Yeah.
So that was meant to be from, I think this is 3 to 7 years out from the Parks Master Plan. We're not quite 3 years out, but given that those 3 years it'll come up quicker than we think, we're trying to get those queued up for the planning process to have a little bit more concrete ideas of where things will go. But also because there's an interface there with the bike path we're putting through Pierce Street Park. We want to have a little bit more fleshed out plans for that. And so that'll be kind of a study session that we want to include in the CIP planning process.
Okay, so CIP, and so it wouldn't be Prop 68 because those funds have all been allocated basically. So is CIP basically general fund, or that could be grants, or?
CIP pulls funding from pretty much everywhere. It includes not just parks, but also buildings and streets and sewers. So it's basically all of our funding from, other than our operating budget, is in the capital planning process. So that could include grants. It does include general fund. But that does also include dedicated funds like the sewer maintenance, sewer fund and the storm drain fund, for instance.
Could also be Measure M, which is all for park maintenance and improvements?
Yes, so for parks specifically, I think it draws from a number of things. I think we would look for grants. I think we also have Measure M, we have the 88-1, and as well as general fund that can be used to fund various things. And I think what we would be looking for this commission, as well as others, about projects like, what are the priorities? Because I think we can't do everything all at once. So, you know, if we have $1 invest, what are your priorities to invest in? And then we'll take and run with those.
Okay, thanks.
If I could just add also, Commissioner Martin, the tennis courts, I don't know if I mentioned the post replacement is actually scheduled for next week. Again, that'll be weather permitting, so if we do get the rain that we're expecting, it might be hard for them to put in the concrete, but hopefully that'll happen either next week or the week after.
I have a question. So for the capital improvement plan prioritization process, when should we expect that?
So early 2024. I don't have a specific date. We're pulling information and looking to do, so I can't say anything more than early 2024.
I'm just wondering, when does like the budget get I mean, that coincides with budget stuff too, right?
Well, so the capital improvement plan, there's two parts of it. There's elements that are funded, and the way the project, the plan works, it's a 5-year plan.
Okay.
2 years is funded by that's hard appropriated money. The next years are more like getting things in the queue. Like, this is a priority, we want to get this, that gives us some and especially now that we have Andre on staff, we can develop cost estimates and scoping and figure out and then it's what I call the budget Tetris of trying to piece together budgets to fund various projects. So it's not, here's the dollar amount, how do we want to spend it? It's, here's our priorities, let's scope it, figure out how much it costs, and then look to get funding to accomplish it.
And question about the tennis painting, is that something you do on a, is there a certain timeline or is just as needed?
So the resurfacing of tennis courts, I think in my term, I've been here 7 years, it hasn't been done. So I think we want to be doing it on a more regular basis. And I think that's why they're showing some of the age. I don't know what the ideal
Okay.
process, because I'm not sure exactly when all of them have been redone, but I think they're due.
Okay, thanks.
Questions? I have a couple. Let's see. So the compost, where do you get that from?
So that we source that from anywhere that has compost that meets those requirements. It has to be certified to meet those requirements. For instance, the mulch can't just be kind of the chip drop mulch. It needs to be sourced as a diverted waste product, unfortunately. So the mulch, typically we found is chipped pallet material, not the highest quality mulch, but we found places where we can use that because it is required. So the compost, for instance, for the compost giveaway, we source that from Waste Management. They provide it. But there's a number of different compost producers throughout California that have geared up. This is a statewide requirement, so not just us, but every other municipality throughout California is looking to purchase stuff. And that was part of the intent of that bill, was to create a market for these materials.
Right, so when it comes with a report, a tested report, the compost?
Well, yes, yes, it does. We don't always get that. We just get the certification that it meets the requirements. We don't dig into all the different composition. That's something that we defer to our landscape contractor, for instance, to say what is the appropriate composition for all fields versus say, turf area.
Okay, so what you're saying. All right. Okay, so you can order specific types of compost depending on where you're going to apply it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, compost for shrubs or trees might be different from compost you want for.
Okay, great. And if we have to get this, what is it, 1,300 tons per year, and we're filling up, and all the residents have what they want, and you still have a pile, I mean, can you sell it? Can you resell it?
It needs to be, we have to purchase it and then use it basically within the city.
Can't sell it
Yeah,
again?
there are some thoughts about, because it is population-based, there are obviously municipalities and counties that have less of a population than, less dense area than we do. They may have big open fields where they can do that. That's something we could look into in the future, but I think with the kind of tools and the planning that we've done, We're hoping to be able to use it within the city.
I've gone to a number of meetings on this, and there's some pretty big ideas of people, you know, compost, like taking it out to Central Valley for farms and this and that. So there's, I think every city's struggling with the 2025 number.
So we can expect a crash in the cost of mulch pretty soon, or?
No, I think it's, but I think, my hope is that we can find sustainable, valuable uses that we can build into things that we get benefit. Like, I think using it on the ball fields provides us benefit to playability. I think there's going to be a point where that next ton that we place is going to be super, super expensive,
Yeah,
and there
so-
might be an alternate.
So two more ideas on that. So you're right, the pallet mulch looks like it's going to last a long time. It looks like a 20-year decomposition rate. I mean, that stuff is big chunks of oak, I think, or something. So maybe mulch that breaks down faster. And also the redwood grove at Ocean View. Redwoods are one of those things you can build up, it doesn't hurt the tree. And you could just pile it on there already. It's kind of very soft, kind of woodland feel to it.
Yeah, I think,
I would
I think,
defer to
I think John, I think John likes that.
John's on that one already? Yeah, it looks, yeah, I think I've noticed that looks good. So yes, we can continue. Okay. And
But that's,
There is some mulch that meets the requirements, that isn't the chipped pallets, and that is vastly more expensive. We have used that in certain locations because the pallet mulch, for instance, isn't great alongside roadways because it's lighter weight mulch and it'll float up when those tree bases.
it looks terrible.
water. So that creates all kinds of problems. So we've paid for the more expensive mulch. Try not to use that. Don't need to because it is very, very costly.
Okay, and a quick question, what is the cost of the high-grade mulch opposed to low-grade mulch?
Offhand, I don't have those numbers. It's something we can provide if.
$30 a ton, no, $30 a ton.
I had a question about cost as well, and that was in the presentation, you mentioned application cost was $50,000. Was that just for us to apply it, or did that include the acquisition of the?
So that's a good question. Right now, the kind of the application and the material costs, some of that is built into our current landscaping contract. So that the scope of work that they do includes procuring and applying. So it's kind of built in there. It's not pulled out. The application costs, I kind of calculated that based on where they didn't have that scope, where we added additional areas. Kind of said, okay, so this is about what it costs for that. Again, that is the lowest hanging fruit, and I expect that to go up.
and when we restructure our landscape maintenance contracts, we want to have a better sense of what those costs are and structure it so that the cost reporting is more detailed.
Yeah, I just,
Thanks.
you're right, I'm seeing cost of mulch in ranges from like $30 a ton to $120 a ton, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all my questions, anyone else?
I had one follow-up on that is for context, is some of this requirement for cities, this unfunded mandate for cities to take all this compost, and I'm not sure about the mulch, but is it tied into the state's requirement for every municipality to do green waste? And we've had green waste pickup here for forever, but
You're correct that was part of the 1383 requirement, is not just the composting for the municipal composting, but also there's recovering edible food from restaurants, but then also ensuring that their compostable waste goes to composting facility.
and that there's like a market for all of this organic material that's being produced, so the cities are mandated to take it and use it and.
Not mandated to take it, mandated to purchase it.
Oh, yes, to purchase it, yes, right.
It is an unfunded mandate. They argue that it's not because we could potentially recover that through our franchise hauling fees that Waste Management charges everybody. But it does end up being an additional burden on everybody who lives here and has to pay those fees.
So those fees might go up in the city.
I would guess.
Well, they're-
I don't think we're looking to cover it through the waste management fees. I think it hasn't been discussed, but for us, we're just looking at how we do it and how we budget for it, and we'll tackle the cost issue through our budget process.
Okay.
To be fair, we're seeing some good benefit from being forced to do that. That kind of pushed us in a good direction. So it's not all kind of, there's some cost to it, but there's definite benefits.
Are we currently negotiating a waste management contract? Yeah.
Yes, we are. That's why I wanted to say it's not part of that.
Yeah,
We
okay.
haven't, that's completely separate.
We can't get our own stuff back. I mean, that'd be kind of fun.
That's actually one of the, I think, more frustrating parts, because I think John has always done a pretty good job at, when we do tree work, chipping and leaving things at Ocean View Park, and it's kind of, people come pick it up, contractors, whatever, and unfortunately, to get credit for that, we have to send it to a facility, it has to get processed, and then we have to buy it back from them. So, yeah, those are the, I didn't make the rules, those are just the rules.
I also just want to concur with that, not that this is a policy discussion, but I feel like it would make so much more sense to be, like, to basically have the incentive of, like, having to buy back, like, what corresponds with your city's usage, right? Like, we used this amount, let's get, like, you're required based on how much you use, and that's an incentive for us to use less as a city, right? So that's pretty wild.
And also cleaner, because if you're throwing a lot of trash or plastic in with the green waste, it gets mixed in there. It comes back in the compost, little stickers and stuff.
So
for-
once I did take a tour of Waste Management's facility, and it's actually pretty impressive how they can sift through things
Dig?
and pull that stuff out. Yeah, it's,
Because I've seen
It's a lot.
somewhere it has it in there, so maybe that didn't go to the right place. That's good.
I was pretty impressed of what goes in one side and what comes out the other side.
Oh, yeah, one more quick question is some people, some friends who live on, near the Dartmouth Tot Lot mentioned they saw EB Mud near there doing something. Does EB Mud do maintenance, or do you know anything that it was doing at the Dartmouth Tot Lot recently?
They were in
In the tot lot?
I don't know if they were in it, around it, or I don't know what preposition to use there.
So they have, I don't know how long ago this was, but EB Mud did replace all the water lines sort of in the vicinity of there. So there might be some follow-up work that goes on that is sort of minor that we're not aware of. But as far as I know, they shouldn't be doing anything in the tot lot.
Okay. And if a bottle filling station gets clogged with sand or something, is that your guys' responsibility? Okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Put in the service request, please.
Okay, well, thank you, very informative, very interesting.
Thank you.
Azu.
Public comment?
Oh, yeah, sorry, public comment. Where's Jeremiah these days?
There are no hands raised online.
And then I had a few comments. So we do questions, public comment, and then
Yeah,
comments. So I had a few comments other than questions.
Process, now we do,
So,
We haven't gone to our room, have we?
yeah,
Or we haven't gone to the people, like,
well, I figured,
all right, I did jump ahead on that.
yeah. Yeah.
Thanks for the correction. So, any more discussion on the,
I do have some discussion, oddly,
Yeah.
just by coincidence. First off, I want to recognize Public Works because my wife was the one who did the pollinator garden,
yes.
and she was, Public Works was very supportive, very helpful, and she was delighted. And every time we walked by, we checked those plants, and 2 of them were gone. Some deer ate them, we think, so she's getting a cage for those. We're going to replant those. I wanted to mention, just as a public works item, you've probably all noticed the communist posters that were pasted up just before the stroll. I went out and took me about an hour to take down like 6 of these things, scraping them and all that. And now I'm seeing other organizations doing the same thing. So we need to nip this in the bud, because they glue them on there and it's really hard to remove. I noticed some new ones just today, so I can't promise I can take them all down, but.
Sorry, can you specify where?
So the ones were put up before the stroll. They were all over the theater front. They were on the greenway, on the BART post. Those are the ones I took down. They've been on the Big Belly trash cans. They're on some vacant windows. Just today, I saw some pasted on the sides of the Big Belly trash cans, which is really a pain. But I just wanted to get on that, because people learn. They learn that works. Stayed up for months. As far as getting rid of the compost and mulch, I think maybe some public education, how to use mulch, and then maybe bring in the community garden folks could help kind of lead something like that, just to drive a little demand there. I had a little complaint about the service request online. I'm on the Blue Glove crew. I'm seeing something. I take a picture and go to upload it. The picture's too big. The file limit is 5 megs, which most cameras, it's 6+. So if you can up that to 10 megs, it's going to be a lot easier. That's my web developer.
Actually, Jemira might know more about this. I think the website is going to go through a bit of a refresh.
Okay.
That might have better.
I know the file size is often at a server level setting, but hopefully we can get that increased, because it's
We'll bring that. Yeah. That's.
yeah. And then just one other thing, just with the Saha project, moving along. Hopefully, when we start thinking more about Pierce Street Park, we'll bring them into it, because it's going to be really impactful on them. They'd be prime users, so we want to be sure to bring that in. And I think that's all that I had. Right. Thank you. Sorry for.
Thank you.
See, none of those were questions.
I actually have just one comment, too. I'm sorry to hear about the bathroom vandalization. And I just, as a parent from the Albany Unified, I've seen also emails go out that say that there's been vandalization in the school bathroom. So I don't know how the school's addressing it, but I hope if they can successfully, it might positively impact. It's just not clear how to do that, how to successfully do that. But
Yeah.
I think that's too bad that we're feeling that.
It's one of the struggles, and actually one of the things we did is delayed the opening of the bathrooms in the morning till after Albany High starts.
Good.
And
Does that help?
a little bit,
Okay.
and then change the timing so as it gets dark earlier. We don't want open bathrooms at night when it's dark, because that's when the people in the park are probably not up to good.
Yeah. Okay.
Talk to your classmates.
I mean, just like circumstantial evidence, it seems like it's getting better, but it was a pretty big problem at the start of the year,
Yeah.
but I believe it's getting better at this point, so.
And your point about the mulch or the organics material, I think we've been sort of in reactionary mode, and hopefully we can get some breathing room to kind of figure out what is a long-term sustainable approach that's not a series of sort of one-off Band-Aids that we're going to run out.
Could some of the organic matter be put on street trees? I know maybe that would really help them. Of course, it's not like you can put tons in one big open field. It's like much more labor intensive, I guess.
That's where the sort of the marginal cost of this is.
Yeah.
It's really high.
And then one of my questions would sort of turn into a comment. Just want to make sure that the Terrace Park tennis court, that the restipring of that is going to come back before us, and the net options and things like that.
That's what we, as part of the CIP, we want to, I think there is an opportunity to integrate the flex court discussion when we when we refresh tennis courts. That's
Yeah,
the time to do it.
All right.
Was that it? Is it
Oh,
No, actually, I do want to make a comment. I'd like to make a comment. So since I'm new to both the city and the commission, like I'm learning a lot, and I didn't know about this, the housing project next to the Pierce Park and the kind of trail that comes with it, and I just want to say that's super exciting. I studied for my master's program anti-displacement strategies well, basically preventing green displacement, so in green gentrification, which is sort of caused by park and green infrastructure improvements in the absence of housing strategies and affordable housing strategies. So this is super cool. I'm actually giving a talk on my research next Thursday, and maybe I'll even highlight something from, this project. But no matter what, I just think that this is, there's attention to projects like this at a national level. I have yet to catch up on kind of this, and maybe we'll even reach out to the housing project developer. So I just think that we should definitely shine a light on this, and would love to speak with whoever is also interested in that.
It's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it. It's affordable housing and a park being developed right next to it, yeah. All right, let's move on to big one. Well, not the big one, also important issue, the tree removal. Presentation by John, let me get to it. Item number 8. Possible action on matters related to the following trees.
Hi, I'm John Hawkridge, the urban forester. First slide. So we're here to talk about the Solano eucalyptus, which we discussed at the last meeting. Just some background, Solano Avenue has 27, the corridor, they're not all exactly on Solano Avenue, has 27 eucalyptus nicolii trees, or peppermint willow, or peppermint leafed willow, or a number of other common names for these trees. Last year, we had 2 of these trees fail on Solano, one at 1404 Solano and one at 1350 Solano. This prompted us to have all of the trees assessed. We presented the results in detail at the last meeting. The results of that were 23 trees were deemed worth retaining, several of them with some risk reduction pruning, and all of them with further monitoring. These are all mature trees. They've been rated in different levels, different states, different conditions, so they're going to warrant some monitoring into the future. 3 of the trees were recommended for removal, and that's what we're here to talk about tonight, and we discussed this last meeting. And we were left with, there was 1 tree that was recommended for further study. So, next. So this is 1406, 1404 Solano. One of what was left of one of the trees after the contractor cleared most of it out of the street. It amazingly came down right between 2 parked cars and kind of destroyed one of them, didn't do too much damage on the other tree, and no one was hurt, thankfully. Next slide. This one fell across from the China Inn, is the name of the China Village. Both of these trees, you could see pretty clearly in this one, they broke right at the root, right at the base of the trunk, right at the root zone. A little bit unusual. Often you see trees that fall in this manner, their root system is ripped up and it's exposed, and this is what caused some of the concern that there's something going on with the roots of these trees. That's also what led us to have all of the trees assessed. Next slide. So tonight, presenting the street tree removal application for 3 of the trees, one at 1477, one at 1486, and the other at 1487 Solano Avenue. The tree, last meeting, we discussed that we were going to do some further study on the tree at 1491 Solano, and we did that. We'll get into that a little bit later, but the decision was that we can retain this tree. The three trees, again, for removal are 1477, 1486, 1487 Solano. Two of them have basal decay. Third one has basal decay, but also more obvious were some limb issues on this tree. Next slide. So we did what is referred to as track assessments, and again, we discussed this last time, but I'll go over this quickly. It's a standardized and systematic process for assessing tree risk. Evaluates the potential for and the consequences of complete or partial tree failure, meaning if large limbs fall or the entire tree falls over. Level 1 assessment is a limited visual assessment. You're driving by, walking by, you look at the tree. Even aerial sometimes from a helicopter or something could be considered a level 1. You're looking at a tree and it generally looks good, generally doesn't look good. Level 2 is a more thorough 360-degree evaluation where you're looking at everything. You're looking at from the root zone, trunk, up into the crown of the tree. Sometimes using some tools to get more information from the tree. Level 2 will lead to a track level 3 assessment. What you're seeing in a level 2 will sometimes warrant a level 3 assessment. So level 3 includes everything in level 1 and level 2, but it also includes uses of specialized tools, sometimes aerial inspections, root flare examinations, and decay detection through core resistance drilling. There's a couple ways to do that, and we'll talk about that, are typical of this. And this is getting into the tree, getting into the trunk of the tree a bit. So the risk rating that results from the assessments takes into account defects and the likelihood and consequences of complete or partial failure. So there's different levels, different ratings of low, moderate, high, or very high risk rating. Next slide. This is the list. We saw this again. We saw this last month. We highlighted the trees that are recommended for removal, and the fourth tree, highlighted in green, is the one that we did some further study on, and the decision was to retain that tree. Next. So 1491 is the tree that was recommended for further study. We originally had tree management expert assess this tree, and they suggested removal based on decay that they observed and some limb issues with this tree. Hort Science went through, when they went through and did we had Hort Science assess all 27 trees. When they looked at this tree, they didn't quite agree with their assessment. Their feeling was we could retain this with some risk reduction pruning. So since there was a little they weren't in agreement here, we had Hort Science go back and do a track level 3. We had them do some resistograph testing on the tree. And resistograph testing is where you're drilling a fine drill into the trunk of the tree. It senses resistance of the tree, so where there's less resistance means there's decay, or weaker wood. Where there's more resistance, there's healthier, stronger wood. So the picture on the left is just a picture of the tree. The picture on the right is the limb that tree management experts initially found some concern. They saw a lateral crack in this limb. Next, please. So when we had Hort Science go back and do the resistograph, this is the result of the resistograph, and we're seeing a pretty stable tree, the trunk generally intact. The yellow is showing some intermediate wood, meaning it's kind of soft. It didn't have the resistance of the rest of the trunk. Generally, the trunk's in pretty good shape, so we're not too concerned about decay in this tree. So the decision was to retain this tree. Next slide. 1477 is a little bit different story. As you can see from the resistograph, the red indicates decay. Decay is pretty extensive in this tree. There's what is assessed as a probable risk of failure on this tree, which means it's probable, which means there's a good chance this tree will fall in a storm. So the recommendation for this tree is to remove it. Next slide. This is 1486 Solano, again recommended for removal. And again, you can see a couple resistograph charts here where there is some extensive decay and not a lot of intact wood in the trunk. This one at Jean's Realty. Yeah, yes, so this one also was recommended for removal. Next. And the last one, 1487 Solano, also recommended for removal. Hort Science reviewed the tree and concerned, we had them go back and review the two trees, 1487 and 1491. And when they reviewed this tree, they confirmed that tree management experts' concerns were valid. They found the same concerns. And basically, those are limb issues. These are the main concerns. They found some decay in the root zone of the tree, but the main concern were these large limbs. You can see in the photos from tree management experts, they are showing the one limb with torsion failure and another limb that's cracked. The torsion failure limb is the limb that goes over the building, and the other limb that's labeled as lion-tailed is a long limb that extends out over Solano, and lion-tailing means everything's been pruned up to just a fluff at the end of a long limb. Next. So here, to remedy this tree, we would need to remove the limbs as shown on the left photo. One limb, and both of these limbs would need to be removed. The crack on the limb over the building is lower down just above that arrow point. That would mean that the limb would need to be removed all the way to the trunk of the tree at that point. And the other limb is the lion-tailed limb, and the only way to there's no other point to do a proper pruning cut on this tree, so the only remedy for this would be to remove it all the way to the trunk, which would leave just that one stem in the middle of the tree. It would leave it open to wind exposure. And it would also leave two very large wounds at the same level. The branching on these limbs are all at the same level. As well, there was some visible decay in the roots possibly from some previous sidewalk repairs, and there was a visible cavity in this tree, not very large, but it still indicates that there's some decay in the root zone of the tree. So the decision for this is also to removal. Recommendations for removal. Next slide. So the next steps, we're looking at risk reduction pruning for all of these trees. We have what is it, 13, 11, I forget the number, but the worst ones are being pruned in a couple weeks. They're scheduled for pruning. We're hoping to get the 3 removals approved tonight, and we'll get those removed hopefully before big storms hit, although we're expecting a storm coming next week. And as for the other trees, we'll be continuing monitoring and reassessing the trees. the consultant recommended 6 months to a year for reassessment, and then the reassessments will advise further assessments of these trees. So, questions or comments?
Just a question about the monitoring and reassessment. That's for the other trees, the other 24?
For all,
Okay.
yes, yeah.
Or for all of them? Well, okay.
The 24 trees that are remaining.
Better, okay.
Yeah. We have, they're all over mature trees. Almost all of them have really spilled over their planting space. And what we saw with the 2 trees that came down, these are a big concern, especially along Solano, and if they're on any street, they'd be a concern, but.
I have a question about what the front-facing businesses feel, if you've talked with them about it, if they have an opinion about removals.
We've sent out notices and didn't get any response. I don't know if there was any public comment sent in from any.
I didn't receive any public comments on any of these trees.
I know the one at 1487 did drop a limb last winter that landed on the awning over the jeweler that's there next to Duo Grill, and they're looking forward to not having the tree. When I was there dealing with it, he was asking about having the tree removed. So.
Yeah, I just think Duo Grill has outdoor seating, which may or may not be a reason that they'd want it or not want it. I guess, I just, because I know that can shade. I've eaten outside there, and that tree shades that area. So I just think with small business owners, my experience when I've run projects with outreach to small business owners, they're just so busy that they might not have noticed something.
Sure, I think Duo is probably a special case because they put an application in for a parklet, and this tree assessment is part of that because.
Okay, so they're aware?
Yes, and sort of decisions around risk would impact the parklet in terms of putting parklet underneath a high-risk tree.
No, but my question is do they even know?
Yes, they've been,
Like
I think they, not through us, but through community development and comments around the parklet.
Okay, no, but do they know that it's up for consideration for removal is my question.
I believe the tree that's directly next to the parklet, that affects the parklet the most, is the one that's being decided to keep.
Yes.
It's the one next to it.
The one next to it.
That's next to it that is
Oh,
proposed to remove.
really?
Yeah.
It looked
Community
like-
It
development.
was the one that was suspicious, but it was, yeah.
We had both of those. So one of the reasons why we have multiple consultants, we did the 2 trees next to Duo initially because we had concerns about parklets, the trees relative to the parklet. And I believe the one closest to the parklet is retained and the one just next to it is.
Can you just, okay, sorry. Can you just show us that? Yeah, is there a way to see that? Because I was
You know
confused.
what? I think the best way to show this is on the staff report, we included a map. And so let me see if I can get to that real quickly.
Right behind it is the Grill Diner. The address is 1491.
Right.
Behind that tree.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just I had to look.
And then someone was asking if we'd gotten correspondence, and we haven't gotten any correspondence to Prosk.
Might have one speaker here.
Well,
We might have,
we've gotten no emails from any business owner or about any of the trees yet, or anyone about any of the trees.
Well, a few more questions, but then I want to open up for community comment, and then we can discuss. So any more questions of John?
Yeah, one was, you mentioned basal decay. Can you define that for us? The basal just means the bottom of the tree?
Yeah, the base of
So
the trunk.
decay near the bottom of the tree, because you guys saw them snap off at the bottom, and so that's the concern is that.
Yeah, if we're finding decay in the base of the trunk, basically, that kind of indicates more decay into the root zone too,
Okay.
which seems to be what happened with the trees that came down.
And then the resistographs, I don't want to get too deep into it, but we just don't see those very often, and the public maybe has never seen them before. Can you show one of those at some point? And then is the x-axis basically how many inches or how deep this bit has gone into the tree?
Yeah,
And the y-axis is like how much resistance it's feeling as it's trying to turn in there?
yes, I believe that's,
And then it seems like they all slope up. Is that just because there's more and more surface area of the drill in the tree? Or is the drill somehow measuring only that particular tip of it? how strong the wood is there.
I don't think it's going straight through.
Actually, I spent a lot of time reviewing those. I can maybe explain it. So it's a 20, and I have the map up instead of a resistor
okay.
graph. So, but
Yeah.
I can maybe give you a high level, and then
Okay.
we can look at the resistor graph is a 20-inch bit that goes through there. And as it gets pushed through there, it measures the resistance. And if it's a constant line going up, that's defined as solid wood. If there are flat lines or decreases in that, and you'll see that in some of the other, and we can show this in a moment, that shows pockets of
Rot or
Of
something,
rot.
sod. Okay, and
then
it
that's
sh-
graphed.
and it should go up just because there's more and more surface area of the bit grinding on the tree, the deeper you
And
go.
so where there isn't, then that's tension
Was- Yeah,
that's not there.
okay, okay, thanks.
Let me show you the map here if I can. So this is this was an attachment to the staff report, and here are the two trees right near Duo Grill, and the green one is the one we're retaining, and
Sorry, could you make that smaller?
Smaller.
fair enough. How do I do that? Oh, okay,
Anybody see a zoom button? Oh, there we go, that'll do it.
let's see if that works. No, I can't get it.
Scroll.
So these are the two trees at Duo Grill. So, let me see if I can get back to the resistor graph.
And then while we're waiting for that, I remember last year, I forget it was at this commission or city council meeting or somewhere, Public Works mentioned, some staff mentioned that the decision had been made, which worked out very well for the city, to proactively hire tree trimmers before a storm would come through, so that, because they're hard to get once all the trees fall down in the region. So is that still the plan this year? And how does the city identify which storms to do that for?
I can jump in on.
Question. I think we're planning on continuing this. It just depends on what the forecasts for these storms are. And they're not proactively pruning, but they're on call to respond wherever there's situations, so we get things cleaned up.
To clean up a fallen tree or
things
limbs,
out of
yeah.
trees quickly.
Right. Which worked
There's
well,
no
though.
hard and fast line. We developed this, we went this route based on last year's experience where we had trouble getting people to respond. So we figured if you're within the city limits, you're gonna do our work first until you go somewhere else. So we're definitely gonna do that same thing. I don't know if it's gonna be every storm, so that's sort of,
Okay.
we'll make that decision based on sort of consultation with what we'll talk to the fire department. We'll, like the last time, we actually activated our EOC, and that really triggered it, and it worked out so well, we did it more often. So we'll see where we land.
Okay.
I do have some resistor graphs here to show you, and here's, this is the tree we're retaining, and you can see this line generally is rising, and then where there is some intermediate decay, you can see there are flat lines or it goes down. That in comparison to this line where you really see the difference in the decay.
So that one's soft the first 8-9 inches into the tree, is that the idea?
Yes, and then it starts building, but this is, intermediate decay, and then more solid wood as you get to the center of the trunk. And, if you look at each of these represents a different side of the tree. So I think the top one's on the west side of the tree, the bottom one's on the south side of the tree, and roughly 8 inches above grade.
Okay, thanks, because these get flashed in front of us, and I don't think we've had much of a, I mean,
I think,
description.
I can recall one other time where we had a resistograph.
yeah, okay.
And how many of these resistographs can you do before you take the tree down?
A lot.
A woodpecker,
It's 1.5 millimeters in diameter, so.
It's the slowest way to remove a tree.
Right.
must be a really strong bit then.
Our community member's been waiting so patiently, though. I would like to hear your comments. Yeah.
Is this on? Okay. My name is Molly Brown, and I live around the corner from these trees on Santa Fe. I'm about 3 doors off between Solano and Marin. And so this is my neighborhood, and that's my block. And I share everyone's concern for safety with the trees. I remember when the one in front of the laundromat crashed, and then the one down the street, and obviously, you know, safety is primary, safety of people is primary, but also, and I'm sure you all feel this way too, I mean, taking out this many mature trees on one block is really going to alter the character of the block. And so I came tonight to, because I saw the things around the tree, and then I also hung on to the notice, the little yellow card that I got, I don't know how long ago, but I put it up on the fridge because I didn't want to miss it. And I guess what I'm trying to say is it was easy to miss. And so that you haven't heard from the businesses, I think is not that unusual. But I mean, it seems, you know, irrefutable, the evidence that the trees are sickly. And I do also, I was very concerned when the trees around in front of St. Albans were supposed to come down, and I was so relieved that they didn't all come down, that a fabulous job was done with the pruning and all the work that was done with the sidewalk and the curb. And I just came here tonight praying that maybe something like that could happen on this block to save them, but that's all I'm here to say. If they can't be saved, then I would like to understand if something will be replanted, and if something could be replanted, could it possibly be a little bit more mature than the other ones that were, the other mature trees on Solano, on the other side of Solano on Santa Fe, that were replaced with, you know, saplings. So that's my comment.
Thank you.
I have some questions. I just want to say thank you to the, I don't know, citizen for the comment. And I actually think that there's quite a few people who share your sentiment, and they might, for whatever reason, not have known and it come out tonight. I do have a question, because when I looked at the risk report, it said, you know, the actual risk to a pedestrian walking by or something, like it, the risk to bodily harm was very low. So this is more of like a, I think, a property damage concern if it does happen. And I just, I do have concerns that the businesses were sent a notice but may not have really known. And so I'm just curious about that. Is there a way we can, before making a decision, I have real reservations about that, because I just, from my experience with small businesses, I would just want to make sure that they do know. And I just want to highlight that when I read the risk report, it wasn't, the risk was maybe high for some property damage at the worst case scenario, but not for bodily harm kind of damage, at least from the reports that I saw. And maybe I'm misinterpreting, but I'm just thinking that we have this city tree management plan coming up, and we are making big decisions about something that's actually of value to the entire city, which is Solano Avenue, not just one neighborhood, Solano Avenue. So I wonder if there's a way we can, first of all, make sure that those property owners actually, all the businesses alongside, because they get affected everybody's walking by, their business gets affected by the shade, the atmosphere. But then also just think about whether or not we really want to make a decision like this before the city tree planning process is complete. So I just wanted to offer that to the commission because I have real reservations, and I'm glad that the comment was made because I do think that that represents what a lot of people may feel in the city, and they just aren't here to talk about it, so.
I can share that the notice about these trees, this meeting, and the nice story map that was created for this trees was sent out by the Chamber and the SAA several times to the Avenue. And I know that these businesses are on the at least Solano Avenue Association mailing list, so they did get an email notification. And before the last meeting, we did get a response from a business owner on the far side of San Pablo on Solano, hoping their tree would be removed, but that one was fine. We haven't heard anything specifically from these folks. I do know the guy Duo Grill quite a bit, and I'm trying to, I think that, well, I'm not going to say whether he said anything or not, but.
I just think we're making a really big decision.
Well, this sounds more like discussion. Are we?
Yeah, so this is a discussion.
Oh, that's right, okay.
This is
Okay,
discussion.
very
We're in
good.
discussion.
I had a couple questions, but go ahead. Yeah.
No, you go ahead.
So could you just describe torsion failure?
Failure.
Yeah. I mean, it's twisted or?
Basically, yes. Most likely in the storms last year, these trees were
Okay.
blown around, and it's not cracked. Horizontal, I don't know.
Yeah, laterally, or whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
So I see, so it's like it's wood that, it's not like it's grown twisted, it was twisted and then cracked.
Yeah.
From stress, okay. And then, just when you were discussing, this is 1487 Solano, when you were discussing the branch that was lion-tailed, you used the term pruned up, so it had been, do you think it was pruned that way? Or do you think it just died off, or you think previous generation
Probably a
of
combination
arborists?
of both.
Okay, all right. That was my question, I just, yeah, that didn't mean.
I want to say thanks to the city for really jumping on this after the storms that we had and doing this systematic check of all of these trees, the only ones that are coming before us tonight, and also making this a 2-month process. So this came before us last month, and the public was made aware in one way or the other, and it's coming back to us again. So these are some big decisions about big trees on a major, shopping, commercial district, and we've had 2 full months to consider it and to look at the information, and that the city has gone out and tried to, and that the city didn't just say, we want to get rid of eucalyptus, and they're all coming down. Or something. We don't want any risk at all. It seems like there's been a really thorough check, and the only ones that are coming before us are the ones that are being recommended for removal. It sounds like they are unfortunately kind of concentrated in one part of the street. So residents who live near there and other people going through there are going to notice it more than if they were more scattered out. And so I think that's just unfortunate, and in that regard, that they're concentrated in that way. And so I do appreciate all this, the information that helps us make a decision, I think, and the time that we've had and the public's had, and to have input as needed, and apparently many didn't think they needed to provide input. Yeah, so that's it.
I did want to mention for our visitor here that I did see in the staff report, I think, that the plan actually isn't to replace these right away because there's a complete streets program in long process. That whole area could be reworked. The good news being there could be a whole lot more room for bigger trees. So if we replace it with something that's going to grow just as big in the same spot, it's just going to be the same problem. So that way they can make room for a much larger tree, so we won't run into this problem.
A lot of our tree wells, like openings in the sidewalk, are pretty small, And I think what Commissioner Abbott's saying is that part of that plan could involve making more appropriate room for street trees.
And it seemed like they were seeing damage from potentially one that was even much smaller. You're saying an old sidewalk or something was impinging much closer. On one of the pictures, you can see where they, yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter, I just,
Yeah, one of the things, the failures we saw last year, what was surprising is that there was very little sidewalk damage.
right.
Yeah, that's,
And
Just
Means it
snapped.
just broke off at the roots.
that's what led us to really look at and really focus on the decay piece of this as a real driver for the recommendations, because that was surprising and scary.
that was surprising in one way, but I was also surprised at what a great tree selection that was back in the day. I mean, you got this massive tree and a tree well, and it didn't heave the sidewalk. So maybe it's not a bad choice, really, if you make it.
And I did have a question about the decay. So does the decay start at the roots and go up, or is it just, it depends? It depends on the source, and I know with you, you never have a straight answer for me, I know. It's always, yes.
Something like this, I would presume that it's coming from the soil.
Yeah, because that's the moisture.
Especially, we're talking about all these in one location, concentrated together. Makes me think there's something generally in the soil in that area that's
Could it be a drainage? Well, who knows, but yeah.
it could be something from
yeah.
underground water or
Yeah, okay.
leakage or something going on there, but
I mean, when we do go to replace them, can you analyze it and put in a tree that's appropriate for that condition? Or is that more involved? Yeah, yeah.
So there's two things that we're delaying the replacement for, is one, the street tree management plan. And
Right,
so I
right,
think
right.
That would be something we would tackle as part of that, as well as, we wanted a design aesthetic. And so we want to make sure that something we choose now would fit into the overall plan.
Right.
As well as the Solano Avenue Complete Streets is another sort of project on the horizon that we don't want to make a decision that's not compatible with the future vision.
But, I want to go back to that tree well. I mean, people were laughing, but, I mean, has it been root pruned before, the trees, or that is the,
have they been root pruned?
yeah, I mean, have they replaced the sidewalk around those in the past? And
Yeah, I'm not certain.
It's kind of
on these,
amazing.
although the one tree, it looks like there's been some root pruning there, so I'm presuming there was some sidewalk replacement.
I would say, I walked them, I don't think everyone, I think some of them had root prune, had sidewalk work, but not all of them.
I'm not sure, in the new plan, we haven't done it yet, but it's going to be hard to provide larger wells. And we still want large trees, so it's an issue.
So finally, I wanted to mention something that I think you said back in March, or whenever we looked at the trees that had fell, and part of the issue was the wind was coming from a different direction than it normally does, and so the trees were unprepared to resist that. Do you see that being a similar problem with these? These are on the other side of the street primarily, so.
That is probably a factor. We had what they call the bomb cyclone.
Right.
So wind was going in every direction. Plus, it was much stronger winds than a typical winter
Yeah.
storm. So I think the issue with these trees, or the concern with most of these trees, they're mostly leaning in towards the street as well. So this one on the screen now, you can see that if this is some decay in the base of the trunk, if this one gives up, I think any of them are going to fall in towards the street.
And why would a tree lean in like that? What is making it lean like that?
Sunlight,
It's reaching for sunlight?
reaching for sunlight, yeah.
I mean, it's above the building now, but when it was younger, it needed to reach out for the sunlight. Is that,
Well, as it grew,
yeah.
you know,
yeah.
it's growing, it's getting wider. There's nowhere to go on that side. It's growing out
Right.
over the street side.
Very good.
Okay, any more questions of John? Want to make a motion? We have to make a motion, that's right.
We need to make,
Your recommendation is to remove the 3 trees.
all right, I'll move that we accept the recommendation and approve the application to remove these trees.
I second it.
Okay, Commissioner Abbott?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang Frank?
No.
Commissioner Chin?
Yes.
Commissioner Martin?
Yes.
Commissioner OG?
Yes.
Commissioner Sandberg?
Yes.
And Chair Kent?
Yes.
Motion passes.
So that concludes, concludes that agenda. Moving on to the last one, future agenda items. Any commissioners have any announcements to make or for future agenda items?
So one thing I was going to mention on the last item, it actually ties into this too, is there's a phrase in one of the reports, phased replacement or phased tree retirement, I guess, in order to build that diverse. So I think that's something that could be part of the plan, but.
So that's something that we are hoping to get out of the street tree management
Yeah,
plan.
yeah.
We have a lot of mature trees that we need to manage, and we want a systematic way to do it that has community support.
Yeah,
In a way
yeah.
that it doesn't impact one area.
Right.
You know, we want to do it in a systematic way.
Very good.
For our future agenda items, could we get just like a quick update on the street tree management plan, not like a full report?
Yes, that's
Okay.
on the, so I can jump into the future items. We actually are, we had a study session on the street tree management plan at council, I think two meetings ago. They're working through a number of tasks and are planning to be here in January. Do
Consultants, you mean?
Consultant,
Okay.
the consultant team. So
Okay.
they're working on that information and then come back to the commission. We were targeting December, but there's a couple of tasks related to standing up a website and things of that sort that we want to have in place before coming to the commission. For December meeting, so we'll have the Prop 68 projects coming back. So Andre's made great progress, and hopefully we'll get to the point where we can make recommendations to go out to bid for some of these things, some of the projects. We're also having the AB 2404. This,
Oh, uh-huh.
yeah, so
Equity, the gender equity, yeah.
yeah, this is
Okay, great.
the report on.
Recreation
I think
offerings.
Commissioner- Yeah, Commissioner, you.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
said it was
so,
like Title
yes.
IX for,
Yeah.
state Title IX for
Oh, good.
public programs.
Yeah, for recreation, just to make sure there's a balance in the,
Sure. And so we have that. And then the other thing we have, which is new to me, is that we're going to start a status report to council on commission activities. So this is I guess, linked to the work plan, and then I think this year, this status report, which will include work items that tie to the strategic plan, would be somewhat in lieu of a formalized work plan this time. So we will, I don't know exactly what the form of this, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything, but my guess is this is going to be a memo describing what has been done and then what we're looking to do going forward. And I don't know how it's been done in the past, but the idea I think we would work with Chair Kent to come up with a draft that we can discuss here, edit, maybe at the next meeting, and, finalize, at the following meeting, and then that would get presented to council, not as a formal presentation, but just as a memo to council, as an informational item. So,
What month would that take place?
so I think depending on how the discussion goes in December, we would either bring it back in January or February, depending on how much work needs to be done. So it really dependent on where we are in the consensus we have on the initial draft.
Okay, any more future agenda items? Okay, well then,
We do have a bunch of things stacked up. Like I said, we have John wants to come and talk about trees within parks. We have Margot's intern's going to come back and talk about the work that they're completing. We have Margot's project looking to come here in the Albany Hill project in February or March. So we have a lot of fairly meaty items coming to commission here in the next couple months.
Right, and the tree master plan, or tree
And management plan.
management plan.
Yes. I get tripped up on
We
that.
should stress, because the management is a little bit confusing. It is a design, also has a design component to it, not strictly.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. That concludes this evening's meeting.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes.